Well, hey there, you're on the internet. I managed to find some more free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Today's ink is by Noodler's. As you can see, I've used a fair bit of it. Noodler's Blue Black. And all the tests were done in this Knox PLATO with a medium nib. Great pen, by the way. Let's look at the chromatography. Got away. So as you can see, there is this sort of circle of dark at the bottom, and then there's this teal that sort of goes up, sort of wavy band here, and then a very clear blue up at the top. My understanding is that a lot of these Noodler's blank hyphen black inks is that they have a base of Noodler's black. So red black, blue black. Essentially what it is sort of a washable color, and then the, sort of eternal black at the base, which you will definitely see in these paper tests. So let's get started from the top down. Clairefontaine, 90 grams per square meter. Fairly quick drying. I will admit that this pen is a bit wet, because I made it wet because I like wet pens. But even still, it's a medium nib, 12 seconds to dry, good shading, good flow, and I hope this comes through, but it's not just a standard, it's not one of those blue blacks that's so dark that you might as well just use a black ink. There's still a lot of character, good bit of color to it. And then here in the water test, you can see that what remains is a very different shade. This is much more blue, even slightly greenish. Here, this is a pretty plain black. And I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, but yeah, the paper started to come apart a little bit. So it might look a little better if I hadn't been quite so aggressive with the water. But that's very clear. It's very dark. Everything's very readable. Yeah, so I'd say good water test. Next is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter. Just gonna move the light a little bit. Again, great shading. I hope this comes through. You can see it in some of the letters. 12 seconds to dry, so the same as Clairefontaine, which is not so bad. Again, it's a pretty wet pen. Good flow, good shading. As I say, more expressive than a flat black ink. No bleed feather spread. Dry time was pretty good. And again, we had that water test where what remains is very clearly a much more black color. Not a lot of show through, despite it being a fairly dark ink. So that's nice. Next is Tomoe River, or Tomoe River, I'm still not sure about that. I was worried that it was going to be overly dark because this paper brings out shading, causes the ink to pool, and part of what makes shading so, I don't know, prolific is that it causes the ink to sort of pile up and darken. So I thought it was just going to look black, but it doesn't. It's got a great color. It's fantastic. Again, what remains is very clear, it's very dark, the blue is washed away, it's very much sort of a thin black ink, but yeah, I said there might be some problem with show through just because it is such a dark ink. So if you're sensitive to that, that might be something to keep in mind. Next is 20-pound copier paper, which 8 seconds to dry, which for this paper is comparatively quite long. However, it's really not that bad. Also, you get shading, and it's great shading. I hope that comes through. But it's a great rich ink. I say I rather like this pen paper and ink combo because it does work very well. It doesn't bleed, doesn't feather, doesn't spread. It's very neat, and it just has a great color on this paper. Again, great water test. Maybe not for the paper, but for the ink, it did very well. Again, you can see how affected the paper was by the water. not bad on show through. That's pretty all right. So, and next is Mead Notebook Paper, where we always sort of get disappointed. And here we do, yet again, 2 seconds to dry, so it dried very fast. But as you can see, all of that shading is gone. And, I mean, it doesn't feather that bad, it doesn't spread that bad, but it's, oh god, here comes the cat. It's not great. It's really not great. The water test, that's fairly clear and fairly dark, but it did dye the paper a little bit. And comparatively, for such a wet, medium nib, that's not too bad. Okay, that's not great, but still, your standards for Mead paper have to be pretty low, and when you keep them low, that's fairly impressive. Last is Moleskine Notebook Paper, where you still get shading, which is really nice, because a lot of times the more absorbent papers don't shade very well. However, the dry time is comparatively really long. Other inks on this paper dry much more quickly, but 8 seconds isn't terrible if you're a fountain pen user, and again, this is a medium nib and it is fairly wet, but anyways. I said great behavior, minimal bleed, feather, and spread, shading, good flow, but yeah, I guess as it was drying, what you get in the feathers are one, you know, like where you get like the one, like big little, you know, like things sliding off. You get like one little, of course now I can't find it, but anyways, it's, here. Yeah, you get like one little like spur sticking out, but it's really not bad. Water test, fairly clear, fairly dark, very readable. Did dye the paper a little bit, but yeah, that's really not bad. Again, a medium nib, fairly wet. You have to keep your expectations kind of low because Moleskine paper isn't great. You can see a few dots here and there, but really it's not that bad. The water test, again, not great, but even still, we've seen inks that just in their writing have bled through more than this, so yeah. So there you go, that's Noodler's Blue Black, as you can tell. I mean, you can't because now I've been sloshing it around, but I've used about that much of it. It's one of my preferred blue-black inks because it is fairly permanent, it's very well behaved, and it's not one of those blue blacks where you might as well just use black because it's so dark and it doesn't have characteristic. It's, yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I love fountain pens is because I love all the color options, but this has enough color where I don't feel like I'm giving up some of the advantages of having a fountain pen to use it, because it's really got a lot going for it. Highly recommend it. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching. Bye.